Zambia's inflation rate has been on a downward trend for the past couple of months. Just last month, inflation stood at 11.5%. Currently, which is May 2022, inflation stands at 10.2%. So should you be excited as a consumer or a household when you see the inflation rate coming down? Many are actually worried because the decrease in the inflation rate does not translate into the reduction of price for goods and services. Is this actually true? This is what I want to cover in today's video. What is inflation, and does it really result in the reduction for prices for goods and services? Let's get started. Hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Ndalama Insights Business Show with Mukonkela, where we turn your challenges into actionable insights. Today, I'm looking at inflation. Everything to do with inflation, or at least everything to do with inflation. So I would want to start by looking at the definition of inflation. Inflation is an increase in the prices for goods and services in an economy. Now, this definition really doesn't make much sense. To translate it into something that is understandable to the common person, inflation simply represents the buying power of your money. How much can your money buy today compared to the same amount of money in the next month or next year? So when you look at inflation, it's actually an annual percentage. So currently, Zambia has an inflation rate of 10.2%, meaning that the prices for goods and services are expected to go up at least by 10.2% every year. Now, the inflation rate changes all the time. There are so many factors that affect the rate of inflation. But many governments measure their inflation rates by looking at the Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index is a measurement for inflation, and it looks at an average of all the prices that makes up a country's food basket. And countries have got different food baskets. For Zambia, the food basket includes food items as well as non-food items. Food items such as fruits, vegetables, meal, cooking oil, and most other significant food items that an average family consumes. Non-food items include things such as fuel, rent, and other non-food essential items that an average family consumes. So when you take the average of these prices, you arrive at a Consumer Price Index, which is the figure that indicates what the inflation rate should be like. I'm not going to go into the actual computations of these rates. So you need to just understand briefly how the government arrives at the inflation rate. And so when you look at an average of the prices that are in this food basket, you arrive at the Consumer Price Index, which is very important in tabulating the inflation rate of a country. Something extremely important that you need to know about inflation is that governments have target inflation rates. So for Zambia, the target inflation rate is a range of 6 to 8%. This is what the new government would like to achieve. It's a single-digit inflation which ranges between 6 to 8%. Now, when you look at the target inflation rate, I want you to look at it as a number that the government does not want to exceed or even go below. Yes, they also don't want to go below the 6 to 8% range. So for Zambia, the optimal range is the 6 to 8% inflation rate. This is the range that economists and government has determined is the range that is going to promote Zambia's growth sustainably without burning the engine. So when we talk about the car and its engine, you see that the speed of the car is the inflation rate target that the government would like to keep. So the maximum speed limit the government will want to go at in Zambia is 6 to 8%. They don't want to exceed this speed limit. So where they see that the speed is exceeding 6%, they are going to try to put a halt to bring it within range. And they are going to make decisions so that inflation comes within range, or they bring the speed within the speed limit, if you like. Where they see that the speed is below 6%, again, they're going to try to bring the speed within the range of 6 to 8%. And again, they will have to take decisions. This is because they have determined that the optimal speed limit should be within a range of 6 to 8% in order for the economy of the country to grow sustainably. So the government has got instruments such as the interest rate that they can use to lower the inflation rate. So the Central Bank of Zambia, whose role it is to ensure they implement monetary policy on behalf of the government, is actually in charge of using some of these instruments or tools in order for them to control the inflation rate. And interest rate is one of the tools the government uses to ensure that they are within their optimum inflation rate. Now, currently, Zambia's inflation rate is actually not even within the range that the government wants. So we expect to see things such as higher interest rates so that the inflation rate comes down. Now, when the government increases the interest rate, it means that there's very little money to spend in the economy. As a result, there's very little demand for goods or services. As a result, prices for goods and services naturally go down. Because remember, where there's no demand, the prices are expected to come down. Okay? The inverse is also true. Where there is high demand, we expect inflation to go up. And what does the government do? They will need to lower the interest rate to encourage consumer spending so that inflation is maintained within the optimum range of 6 to 8%. Now, I'm talking about 6 to 8%, picturing that Zambia has already, a few months from now, has already come within that range. And this is projected to happen in 2023. So the Zambian government has projected that they are going to reach a single-digit inflation in 2023. So we expect that it's going to be within a range of 6 to 8%. And should not go below 6% or should not actually exceed 8%. At the moment, the Bank of Zambia has maintained the policy rate at 9%. But don't be surprised if this actually goes up slightly. The inflation rate currently stands at 10.2%. So we expect the government to increase interest rates in order for them to push down the inflation to the target single digit that they would like to attain. So one tool they can use is actually to increase the interest rate. Right now it stands at 9%. It could go even higher because of this, goal of them trying to bring the inflation rate into an optimum rate of 6 to at least 8%. Yes, inflation rate is coming down, which raises the question, will prices for goods and services eventually come down? Well, if you are in business, even if you are not in business actually, you might have noticed that whenever there's an increase, in fuel, transporters especially are in a hurry to increase the prices, right? Even the fuel stations themselves, petroleum stations, are in a hurry to increase the prices for the fuel, petrol and diesel. But when the prices come down, have you noticed how long it takes them to actually adjust the prices? No entrepreneur or business person wants to reduce their prices once they've gone up. You see, very few entrepreneurs actually think of, well, this month we made a lot of sales and there's a lot of profit, so why don't we reduce our prices down? There are very few entrepreneurs, if any, that actually think like that. So naturally, whenever prices go up, it's very rare that they'll come down unless they are pushed maybe by other forces, such as the government. We see that, yes, inflation is coming down. And if you look at the Jesuit Center for Theological Studies, they normally conduct a research on the cost of living of families in Zambia. If you look at the cost of living for a family of 5 in Lusaka as measured by the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, Basic Needs and Nutrition Baskets for the month of April 2022, you actually notice that in April, the food basket stood at 9,326.41. This is a reduction by 85.13 kwacha from 9,411.5 that was recorded in March 2022. So according to the Jesuit Center for Theoretical Reflection, there's actually a drop in the prices for food items as well as non-food items that make up the cost of living for an average family in Zambia, particularly as in this case in Lusaka. And so whereas many people don't actually see a reduction in the prices for goods and services, if we go back to information by researchers, we see that there is actually a slight reduction in the prices for goods and services. Now, the reduction is not going to be even across all the items in the food basket. It is not going to be the same. We see that some items record a reduction, whereas others report an increase. For example, there was a reduction in the price for bananas compared to an increase in the price for mealie meal. And this is actually something I experienced myself. When I sent one of my colleagues to go and buy me a bag of mealie meal, I was surprised because I'd expect the price to be around 130 kwacha, but they came back with change of only, I think, about a kwacha, having given them 150 kwacha. And so the changes in the prices in the food basket is not the same. So other prices could go up, other prices could go down. But on average, it was reported by the Jesuit Center for Theoretical Reflection that the cost of living for an average family actually came down in April by 85 kwacha. So keep an eye on the actual prices as to whether we are going to see, a drastic reduction in the prices for goods and services. This goes to the government and their push to the, suppliers of these products and services. I think government now has a key role to play in order to ensure that the reduction in the inflation rate is reflected in the prices for goods and services. You cannot expect entrepreneurs or businesses or the private sector to actually reduce the prices for their goods or services. And so government has to push these entrepreneurs and businesses to ensure that their prices are reflective of the general improvement in the economy as well as the reduction in the inflation rate. Well, this is all I had to share in today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you've subscribed already, thank you so much. If you haven't, click the subscribe icon over here. Click my icon to subscribe and also smash the bell icon so that you can be reminded whenever I have a YouTube video out. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.